How you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday? I told y'all once I got finished reading the Kamala Harris 107 Days book, I was going to come back and react to it. I think it was a great book. I think the Democratic Party got some work to do. But before I get into all of this and get too deep into the conversation, let's go ahead and intro the show. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.
For example, I think we should reduce voting age to 16. I'll tell you why. So, Gen Z, they're age about 13 through 27. They've only known the climate crisis. They missed substantial parts of their education because of the pandemic. If they're in high school or college, especially in college, it is very likely that whatever they've chosen as their major for study may not result in an affordable wage. They've coined the term climate anxiety to describe fear of not only being able to buy a home, but that fear will be wiped out by extreme weather, but fear of having children. It is expected that Gen Z will have 10 to 12 jobs in their lifetime. They are a larger number than boomers. They're a specific generation of people who are going to impact our nation and the world. And I think we must invest in them, but I think that they are rightly impatient with a lot of what is the tradition of leadership right now. And if they were able to vote, because they know everything that's happening right now is going to impact them more than anybody older than them, for the most part, in terms of how these systems work. If they're voting right now, at 16 and up, they're going to be talking about the importance of climate. They're going to be talking about the importance of figuring out how AI is going to affect the future of the workforce. They're going to be focused on what are we really doing about affordable housing. And basically in politics, here's the hard truth about this. There are two centers of power that tend to influence how politicians think. Groups that vote the most and people who write the most checks.
The Trevor Jackson Podcast.
You know, I decided to intro the show with that clip because I didn't know that Gen Z has the most people since the boomers. They are important. They just are very important, and the things that they're dealing with is important. But to lower the age to vote, who does that benefit? You know, the youth does have a point. And what she said about the pandemic, it did create people that is radicals. And I don't know who or which party this would benefit, but I think the Democrats, when they was letting all the people into the country, I think votes had something to do with it. With her speaking about lowering the age, I think that has something to do with the Democrats wanting to get votes. When I look at the Democratic Party, why I put what I put in the title, I feel like they don't represent America as a whole. They may look like America because America is multicultural. It's a mixed race, country. It's a whole bunch of different people from a whole bunch of different places. But when I look at their party, I don't see them as America. Like the traditional America, the America that I grew up around, the America that I'm used to. A lot of people may think that I'm speaking conservative language or Republican language, but I'm an independent. I didn't even vote. I purchased the books from the George W. Bushes, the Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, the Obamas. I got both of their books. I got the audio book from Kamala Harris. I didn't purchase the physical copy. But, I got books from Trump also, but I'm an independent. I just like to hear, read, listen to these people in power and the decision making that they make. But it's just interesting because she spoke about the education system. These systems that Gen Z is going to have to deal with is becoming like failed systems to the benefit of the people. Like, why would I want to take a loan out and be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for something that I'm not going to be able to get a job in because AI is going to take control of it? Housing, affordable housing. When she was running and she was talking about housing, she was talking about the lack of housing. Now that she has lost and the campaigning is over with, she's talking about housing being affordable. And I get that, but it's so much housing and new developments out here. Like, if you do get a house, how will it be profitable when you build an equity into it? Because now the developers are just developing so much that, your equity might go up, but you probably can't sell it because it's a new development being built right down the street. And why would somebody buy an old home when they can buy a new home for the same price? It's just, a lot of things aren't beneficial to the people in this country. And I'm just interested in, reacting to this book and seeing what y'all thoughts is in the comment section about Kamala Harris. Did y'all vote for her? Did y'all not vote for her? What direction, the direction of the country that Trump is taking it to? Do y'all like the direction that he's taking it to? Because the things that he ran on, I feel like he ain't even accomplishing. When Kamala and Biden was in office, it became a level of scarcity. The prices of things was going up. People felt like he was sending money to Ukraine and wasn't looking out for the interests of the people. People felt like, why is all of these migrants coming over here and getting benefits and getting, the things that we fought for? Why are they receiving the benefits? So what do y'all think about the direction the country is going in? Trump ran on scarcity, saying that he was going to be able to benefit the American people by bringing down the interest rates, by bringing down the prices of gas and groceries and everyday things that we deal with, bringing down the cost of homes and all of that, helping the real estate market out. None of that has happened. None of it, my opinion. Let's get into the first clip. I find this interesting too, because when she ran and she was doing all of those interviews and stuff, she wouldn't address being a black woman, but in her book she did.
The quote unquote happened to turn black remarks blew up all over the media. Trump's team pulled out an online cooking show where I'd made masala dosa with Mindy Kaling and chatted with her about my maternal grandparents, using it as, quote, proof that I claimed to be Indian. I am proud of my Indian heritage. I was running to be president, not to be an American history professor. It wasn't my duty to school the former president on America's racial history, the one-drop rule, the 1/8 law, and how this history had been and still is weaponized. When my mother came alone to this country from India as a 19-year-old student in 1958, there were still very few South Asians in the United States. She knew that with a black Jamaican-born father, Americans would see us as black children. She raised Maya and me to be proud black women. I could hear my mother's stern voice. Kamala, don't you ever let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. On the plane that day, when I first heard about Trump's remark, we patched in Brian Fallon from D.C. on a call to strategize a response. Brian wanted me to punch back with a big speech about my racial identity, like the one Obama had given. I was so pissed that I did not hold back. Are you fucking kidding me? I was not about to take Trump's bait. He lies all the time, I told Brian. He throws out outrageous statements to distract from the real issues. Today he wants me to prove my race. What next? He'll say I'm not a woman and I'll need to show my vagina? Brian, on the other end of the phone, fell silent. I imagined the deep crimson of his blush.
You know, as a 45-year-old man, looking at these people that is in political power now, that is running for representation to serve the people, they use a lot of foul language and are really graphic. You know, Trump be cussing on TV. She just cursed and stuff. But what I want to say about that, she said she was raised to be a proud black woman. You know, I don't know why it was such a problem to identify as an Indian/Jamaican woman. It shouldn't have been a problem to me, you know, or she could have chose to shoot down the racial construct that is black and white and unify the country as a whole and say that we're Americans. Why don't no president shoot down the social construct of black and white? We the only country that identifies with black, white, mixed. And these races that doesn't even exist because you don't even want the people to know your history, their history. Like, promote unity instead of promoting division. That is interesting to me. Like, you know, why you don't want people to know their identity. When you know your identity, but you want to identify as something that doesn't even exist. Black doesn't exist. White doesn't exist. A lot of people don't even probably think I'm crazy for saying that, but it's just a true statement. It doesn't exist. So I wonder why, like, nobody running for president will shoot that down. To me, when I think about it, I think that it's a profitability in it for the government. That's why. You know, let's get into something she said on this interview about something that the Democratic Party needs to do differently.
So I think about the Democratic Party, and you know, they can point at the consequences of losing that game, but I feel like the Democratic Party needs to get their shit together so that they don't lose the game again.
I agree.
And that's the personal responsibility point, which is like, how do you stop yourself from finding yourself in a situation where at the last minute, Joe Biden is pulled out with 100 days to go and no one mentioned it. I mean, you say in the book that you at the time thought of it as grace. You talk about this on page 46. You say you thought it was grace to not basically mention that there was a problem and grace not to tell Joe Biden to pull out earlier. Yeah. But actually in hindsight, you now think it was probably reckless not to tell him to pull out.
On my part, yeah.
So what is that to you? What does the Democratic Party need to do to...
First of all, you know, if I had done it over, again, part of the reflection, you know, we had the infrastructure deal. We had the CHIPS Act. So we're building back up America's infrastructure. It's 150 years old. CHIPS is about manufacturing chips, U.S. manufacturing, both incredibly important. If I had to do it over again, I would have first gone with our family policy. That was about extension of the child tax credit, affordable childcare, paid family leave. We needed to deal with the immediate issues affecting the American people. In fact, that's why I ran for the 107 days on those issues, including having Medicare cover, for example, for people in the sandwich generation who are taking care of young children and older parents, Medicare cover home health care, right? Mm-hmm. Why I offered for small businesses that they would get a $50,000 tax credit because nobody can, for startup small businesses, because nobody can start up a small business on a $5,000 tax credit, right? So,
do you think the left is somewhat seen as the enemy of entrepreneurship?
I think there is that perception. I don't know if that is the case in reality, but I think we have some work to do.
Yeah,
I talk about in the book, for example, I think it was a mistake to not invite Elon Musk when we had, and I'm no fan of his, but I admire his work as an innovator, and as you know, what he has done in terms of American manufacturing of electric vehicles. We should have had him at the White House when we had all the other American electric vehicle manufacturers.
You know, I talked to one of my partners about this, and the strength to me of a country. This is just my perception of it. I want to know y'all thoughts also in the comment section. Is the family structure. A father in the house with the mother and the kids, and a structure of family. You know, if it's single moms raising boys and they don't have no father, they're going to look up to the people in the street that they see being successful. Her talking about family policy and setting up benefits for creating a family was interesting when I think about the things that the Democratic Party promote. I'm not going to get specific, but y'all know, rights, certain rights, LGBTQ promotion, men on men, women on women, abortion, certain situations that doesn't promote a family structure. When I think that is what, shows the strength of a country. When the family structure is weak, the country is weak. That's just my opinion. So her speaking on that, on things that she should have done differently, promoting that would have been a beneficial thing because people would have viewed you differently. But how can you promote that when you promoting other things that's not beneficial to the family structure? 107 days showed the dysfunction of the Democratic Party because they wanted Biden to stay in longer. But when he went to that debate, they had to get him on up out of there, man. The man was glitching. He was loading. He had stopped, paused, the Wi-Fi wasn't working. And they had to get him out of there. They just showed the dysfunction. And when I think about the Democratic Party now, who is the person that could run for presidency? Like Gavin Newsom? If that's who y'all looking forward to, that's it's kind of sad looking at the state of California. Kamala Harris, looking at the state of California, the things that's going on in California is just spooky. Everything in California is wicked except my Dodgers. My Dodgers just won the World Series. Salute to y'all boys. The guy who was interviewing her said, is the Democratic Party the enemy of entrepreneurship? Because it seems as if they promote dependency more. When I think about it, they want the people to stay dependent upon government assistance and government access so they can keep control. That's just what I've seen. And I'm not here to bash the Democratic Party and promote the Republican Party because they got faults in them too. But I'm speaking about a candidate that ran as a Democrat, it's just interesting to see her talk about things and not really take accountability for some of the things that she done, like her remaining silent when she knew Biden wasn't capable of running the country the right way. The country was going downhill. They wasn't looking out for the best interests of the people. Now that the transition of power has went to the Republican side, they ain't looking out for the best interests of the people also. So it's just a wicked country right now. But, I want to play something else that she said. Like, this was her first campaigning trail when she went to Atlanta. And it was interesting, the use of celebrities when she was running for president.
There were 10,000 people at the rally in Atlanta. It was the first rally designed specifically for my candidacy, not as a supporting act to Joe. And I wanted to liven it up, broaden the cultural appeal, and bring more creativity and fun. Having Megan Thee Stallion opening for me and Quavo as a speaker was one way to do that. Both artists are committed activists. In 2022, Quavo, a talented hip-hop artist, witnessed his nephew and band member shot and killed. He became an ardent activist dedicated to ending gun violence. Megan is a generous philanthropist in her hometown of Houston and has done innovative work supporting education and financial literacy for women and girls nationally and abroad. She is also a red-hot rapper famous for provocative lyrics, stressing body positivity. She embraced the nickname Stallion, given to her in her teens, for her tall, strong physique. "I know my ladies in the crowd love their bodies," she told them. "If you want to keep loving your bodies, you know who to vote for." She and her backup dancers performed in blue pantsuits, a witty nod to my style, even though theirs were of a cut and fit very different from the kind I wear. There had been a question about whether I should have any celebrities at my rallies. Would it seem too California, too Hollywood? I thought that the right surrogates could help expand the crowd and add excitement. There were questions about whether Megan was the right choice. As well as the usual online trolling, there were anxious remarks from supporters. "You need to be more middle of the road. You're not projecting the right image as you come out of the box." I knew they were people who cared about me, but I also knew they were wrong. We needed to welcome everyone into this campaign, and that meant people who listened
to music that ranged from Bruce Springsteen to Lil Wayne. By the time I got to the podium, the audience was on fire. In my speech, I talked about the threats to women's reproductive freedom. I berated Trump for sinking the bipartisan bill that would have helped with border security. I said, as my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it. And then I went after him for backing out of the debate. But he and his running mate sure seem to have a lot to say about me, I said. As the audience howled, I added, if you've got something to say it to my face. By the next day, national polls revealed we'd made up all the ground lost since Joe's debate. I was in a statistical dead heat with Trump. Later, I read the reporting on that rally with amusement and some chagrin. Many of the reporters now traveling with us hadn't covered rallies I'd been having as vice president. My college tour events had often been standing room only. Same with my rallies for reproductive rights. If they had covered those events, the enthusiasm in Atlanta might not have come as such a surprise.
You know, when she first came out as running for presidency, you know, the country was on fire. People was on fire supporting Kamala Harris, wanting to see her do good, because folks knew that if Trump won, people was feeling like Trump was a businessman and he could help turn the economy around. But people know if Trump won, it was going to be chaotic again, just like his last presidency with COVID and all of the chaos that was going on January the 6th and all of those things. So people was on fire, but she just kept coming off as fake over and over and over again. So, you know, her coming off like that and using those celebrities was interesting, because Megan Thee Stallion promoting body positivity, as she would say it seemed more like whoredom with the song WAP and all of that stuff. You know, I don't have nothing against Megan Thee Stallion, but in the trial with Tory Lanez and all of that type of stuff, it was a lot of chaos going on around her. Then when she had Al Sharpton and all of these people coming up speaking for her, these entertainers and stuff, celebrities aren't how we view them no more in this age of Aquarius, this age of information. They are always noticeable, trying to achieve attention on Instagram, on YouTube, all over the place. So we don't view them like we used to view them. Real talk. So when you had those celebrities up there, even though Trump had celebrities also, it just looked nasty, like they was vouching for you. That's how I viewed it, as if they was vouching for you. Now, during this interview she had with this young guy, she also spoke about running again. And I'm looking forward to the next election, because I wonder if it's even going to be another election. The way they talking about Trump is trying to rig it and do things and change laws to where he's the president forever. But she spoke about, will she run again?
Being present.
Are you going to run again? Because I looked at the polls. I looked at the polls, and you're leading for the Democratic side. And there isn't really a clear Democratic candidate. I interviewed Gavin Newsom as well, but when I look at the polls, you're still leading.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I don't know, honestly.
I feel like you know in your heart.
What do I know in my heart?
I feel like you know if you're going to run in your heart, or if you have a calling or a feeling to run. Is something germinating?
I'm focused on the book tour sincerely.
Yeah.
And part of how I'm feeling right now, part of the reason I didn't run for governor of California, I really don't want to be transactional right now. You know, I don't want to be present because I'm asking for a vote.
Okay, yeah. What's the case for running again, and what's the case for not running again?
I think the case for running again is if I can make a difference. Honestly, if I can make a difference. You know, if I feel that I can offer something as president of the United States that would be not only uplifting to the American people, but would be about, you know, getting us on a correct trajectory.
You know, she was hesitant the way she was speaking about running for president again. And I feel like, you know, I don't think she stand a chance. Even though I don't know who would take her place for the Democratic Party besides Gavin Newsom. On the Republican side, they got J.D. Vance. They got the representative that's in Florida. I forgot his name. But, you know, looking at it right now, it's a spooky situation for leadership in the United States. Looking at this book, I want to give my closing thoughts on this book. This book was a day-by-day occurrence of what she was dealing with in the 107 days up into the election. I didn't really receive anything from this book, but her experiences and her thoughts about Trump winning at the end and the trajectory she feels the country is going towards. I actually feel bad for Kamala Harris because, you know, when she was vice president, she was silent for 3.5 years until Biden decided to step down, the first time ever, and leaving her with 107 days. She didn't even have to go up against nobody else to get the Democratic seat to go up against Trump. It was so chaotic and it was so instantaneous. I feel like she should leave this chapter behind her and move forward in a different direction. And the Democratic Party got work to do. If y'all interested in political bios and memoirs, check out the book. Real talk. If y'all interested in hearing her go deeper into what she feels like could have happened or should have happened, go purchase the book. I don't want to speak maliciously on Kamala Harris, but, you know, I feel like step down, shawty. You did a good job. Salute. Appreciate y'all tuning in to my show. Peace, love, plenty of abundance. Make sure you go get you some money and I'm gone. Chill.
I woke from a brief, fitful sleep, still unable to believe what had happened. My mind tumbled through impossible scenarios. It's not true. If it's true, how can we fix it? What if we do this? Could we do that? I was ashamed to realize I was in the denial and bargaining stages of grief, a very long way from acceptance. I could objectively diagnose what I was experiencing. I had no cure for it. But for our democracy, for my dignity, and for the more than 75 million who had supported and believed in our vision for the country, I had to get past my personal mental turmoil and do my job. And part of that was restoring the norms of a peaceful transfer of power that Trump had flouted. I asked Sheila to set up the concession phone call, the call that Trump had never made to Joe Biden. It was a fair election, I said, and I told him I planned to speak about that in the afternoon. I promised that the president and I would help on the transition, and of course we will facilitate a peaceful transfer of power, I told him. I thanked him for his call for unity. I do hope you will be a president for all Americans. I think the country really needs their president to bring us together, and I hope you will do that, I said. I knew, even as I was saying it, that it would turn out to be a vain hope.
The Trevor Jackson Podcast.